All right, today we're learning Tanya, Perek Lamed Gimel. We're getting close to the end of a section in Tanya. Chapter 26 through 34 are a block, one theme. The Alter Rebbe is speaking about how to overcome and push away obstacles in serving Hashem, namely sadness, depression, laziness, sluggishness, lack of motivation, things that we're familiar with in our days. Some people are familiar with.
It's not about motivation, it's more about like actions, to do the actions.
Yeah, how do we motivate ourselves to do the actions?
Just like switching the mindset from not how much you have to put the efforts, but the outcome which you can reach. So you focus on the outcome.
Not on the work, but on the result.
Yes. So you kind of take it off like kind of pressure, so you just like work without any hesitation.
Okay, you're in the getting things done zone. The getting things done zone. Taking care of the task list without procrastination. And the Alter Rebbe is speaking about people whose they're not afraid to work. They're like committed, but there's a bug inside. They have challenges inside. One is pain, deep emotional pain from those things, that a person who's unhealthy, or they're struggling with their family, or they don't have parnasa, they don't earn a living. So that's one area. And then there are people who are bogged down by their sins. It bothers them, different aspects of their sin. So the Alter Rebbe in chapter 31, he helped the person, he provided a system that a person should transform sadness into joy. And he helped the person transition, like run through this loop where you start off in a down and how you come back and you turn it around. And the Alter Rebbe explained that a person has a choice to either allow themselves to be depressed by their bodies and whatever the body represents, or to be joyful by the soul and what the soul represents and what the soul could achieve, and the soul's connection to Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe argued that we should give precedence, like choose the joy of the soul rather than the depression of the body. Now the Alter Rebbe took a break in Perek Lamed Beis to speak about Avos Yisrael. The Rebbe once explained that Avos Yisrael, in addition to the break and it being the lave of Tanya and all of that, but also when a person can get along with people, it brings a lot of joy. Because tension with other human beings is a big source of angst. So it's also a tool in helping a person be besimcha. I became a person who likes cliches. I don't know how that happened. But basically one of the cliches that's very effective is to remember that we have a choice in life, that we could either be right or we could be happy. So, so we choose happiness, and that's in line with what the Alter Rebbe is saying. He doesn't get there in the same mahalech, but obviously the soul is humble because it has no self-interest. Now in Perek Lamed Gimel, the Alter Rebbe continues to highlight, to double, to intensify the ideas, the meditations that bring a person joy. And one of the things about Perek Lamed Gimel is that in Perek Lamed Aleph, the Alter Rebbe said that you have to make a choice between the sadness of the body and the joy of the soul. In Perek Lamed Gimel, the Alter Rebbe is going to he's going to speak about joy from the position of the body too, and the animal soul. So we're not going to have to make a choice between one aspect of our life over another. We could embrace our whole existence, and we'll see that at the end of the Perek, the Alter Rebbe will say, I'm sorry for, it's not a spoiler alert, but really I shouldn't teach it this way out of order, but at the end of the Perek, the Alter Rebbe is going to say that a person who's like in a very lowly state, somebody who's down, really down, and not in their imagination, but someone who failed and broke down and like they set themselves a goal and they crashed. So they're really feeling bad about themselves. That's like a fantastic opportunity to experience incredible joy. Okay, and we'll get to that. We'll talk about that when we get to the end of the Perek. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's start from the top. Perek Lamed Gimel. In addition, the Alter Rebbe is going to bring another idea that will bring true joy. Amitis. Amitis, what makes it true joy? We spoke about consistency. Something that's consistent is true, like emes. Emes is like we spoke about in Perek Lamed Aleph. The Alter Rebbe also brought the word amitis. Ubifrat, especially, when a person sees at certain times that he has to purify his soul, to illuminate it, b'simchas levav. Now, just little hintings. What are these itim mizumonim? What are these special times? Or opportune times? Opportune times is when a person is in a dark place. Like, you really need a boost. You need a shot now to really schlep you out of this situation. And then notice that the Alter Rebbe says simchas levav with two bases. Because this is something that's going to work for the nefesh elikis and the nefesh habahamis, for the yetzer tov and the yetzer hara. It says, Azai yamik machshavta, a person should think deeply, the yetzayer, he should fantasize, he should imagine, illustrate in your mind. In your thought, you should imagine it. Besichloi uvinasoi, in your chachma and bina, in your innovative brain, and in your logical brain, inyan yechuda yizbarech amiti, the true oneness of Hashem. Now, I'm not going to go deeply into the meditation. I'm just going to pass through it. We're not going to skip it. But the Alter Rebbe says a person should imagine and like draw a picture in your mind of what it means that that Hashem and the world are one. That the world is actually godliness. That Hashem fills the worlds. The physical worlds and the spiritual worlds. Meaning, all attributes of this world, all the things that are beautiful or ugly, all the colors, all the shapes, that's all godliness. And all the spiritual qualities, like we discussed in the past, everything that ha'aderes v'ha'emuna represents, honor, glory, all spiritual distinction, wisdom, those are the spiritual worlds. All of those are aspects of Hashem's expression. Even this world, meaning what fills this world, what is truly this world. Hukvede Yisbarech, it's God's glory. The kula, kamei, kela, choshiv, mamish, and all before Hashem is like nothing. Meaning, what does it mean, all before Hashem is like nothing? What appears to us as an independent mitzias, the world seems to us as a whole big shot. But really, relative to Hashem, it's not a big shot, it's nothing. In other words, we're all impressed by the mitzias of the world as it stands outside of godliness. But really, it's completely bottled to godliness. V'hu levadayhu. Hashem is the one Hashem, ba'al yenim v'tachtainim. The Rebbe once explained, what is the meaning of the words v'hu levadayhu? It could have just said, hu levadai, God is alone. What is the meaning? Hu levadehu. Hu levadehu means that it's the same Hashem. Hashem is unchanged. So I want to express something here for a minute. We, just to understand what's happening here. One of the ideas that Hasidus explains is that what would happen if Hashem would create the world without tzimtzum, without Elokim, only from Yudke Vavke. So Hasidus explains there would be a world, but the world would be completely bottled to Hashem. It's like the man on the string, like the puppet on the, right? What does the tzimtzum accomplish? The tzimtzum is not what gives everything its existence. Everything could exist without a tzimtzum, but the tzimtzum is what allows the world to behave as if it's independent. It gives us the sense that I'm my own. I created myself. That's the way I feel. I don't feel like I have something that's bringing me into existence every moment, right? It's like, what happened? You're not allowed to do this. It's illegal to make this experiment, right? But imagine the teacher, you have little kids, and you leave them unattended. And then they realize, right, what happens? What happens how is their behavior affected once they realize, oh, we're not being watched? Let's go take all the jelly beans from Rebbe's drawer.
Depends on the age.
Right? I think he has prizes. Let's go check out the prizes, right? So, we're not being watched. The tzimtzum gives us the sense that we're not being watched. So, there's a level in godliness where essentially the whole world, all the beings, like what's the Alter Rebbe saying? Hu levadehu ba'al uvatachtonim. It's the same Hashem in other words, for Hashem, potential and actual are the same. So if the world could have come into existence and the world is in existence, it's the same. It doesn't change.
And just for us, like actual and the potential is different one?
For us, our feeling changes. In our experience, like the Alter Rebbe says earlier, v'hashinui hu el hamakablim. The difference is for the recipients. From Hashem's perspective, it's the same. It makes no difference. He could have created the world or he actually created. It's the same. The tzimtzum made a change for us. So, in other words, now imagine there's a world, but there's no tzimtzum. It's completely bottled to Hashem. Like when we give the example of the teacher who gives an analogy. For the teacher sees through the analogy. The analogy is not an obstruction. He sees the parable or whatever we're going to learn from the analogy, he sees right through it. So for Hashem, the world as it exists without a tzimtzum. So for him, it's unchanged because the world is bottled. What is the world to us? To us, the world is a metzius. It's, it's all of this, this independence. I could do whatever I want. It's like, without more mashallah, we could get carried away. So is just like Hashem was, whatever Hashem was before the world was created. After the world was created and there was a world. Remember, we're removing tzimtzum here for a minute. So it was this. It's the same. There's nothing getting in the way. There's nothing interfering with him. V'gam b'mokim hazeh Shenivra by Olam Hazeh, literally, where there is a created world. Hashamayim, v'ha'aretz, v'chol tevam, hayu hu levadei mamalei hamakim hazeh. What does that mean? Hashem was filling the world before it was created? No, before there was a tzimtzum. V'gam atokein hu, or v'gam atokein. V'gam atokein, it's the same now. Hu levadei, b'li shum shinui klal, there's no change for Hashem. Because in truth, we're all bottled to Hashem. The Alter Rebbe is speaking here about these great concepts that are explained in hundreds of Ma'amari Chasidus about Achdus Hashem, the oneness of Hashem, just like letters are nullified in the source. It's like I have an idea. I just have to find the words to tell it to you. But the idea is already there. It's like secondary. You know? It's like, imagine someone who's bilingual. Now you want to share an idea. So you want to, hey, what language do you speak? What do you prefer? Hebrew? English? Russian? Now, let me give you the words. But the idea, it's all in the thought, it's all completely bottled. All these words are completely one. So in the source, hu muhus hanefesh v'atzmusa shehein eser b'chinesach chacham b'nedaster, bottle in the source. She'ein bahem b'chines eis yes adayin, where there are no words actually, kedem shemislab sheis b'lvush hamachshava, before you think it through. Like the Alter Rebbe explained earlier. Like explained as well in elsewhere in Shar Ayichud ve'Emunah, the Alter Rebbe explains Mashal Gashmi lazeh, a physical mashal. Of the ray of the sun, the way it is in the sun. Hu guf kader Hashem mishabirakia. Shegam sham, in the sun itself. Whatever light emerges from the sun, surely in the sun it's even brighter. To even greater degree. In the sun, it's completely bottled in its source. As if it doesn't exist. Says the Alter Rebbe, so too, as an allegorically, like the Alter Rebbe explains a whole section of Tanya that we finished recently in Chitas, explaining what the Baal Shem Tov meant, how the Baal Shem Tov framed Achdus Hashem. What is the meaning of one Hashem? One Hashem doesn't mean that there's no other God. One Hashem means there is no other existence. Everything is all part of Hashem. So now the Alter Rebbe is saying, I want you to think about this. I want you to look around in the world and imagine that this table and this chair and everything around you is a manifestation of godliness, including yourself. It's in your, in the Nefesh HaBahamis view, that you're an independent existence, but really you're together with Hashem at all times. So let's take a look. It says the Alter Rebbe Vihine, Kishayamik bazeh harbe, when a person will think about this a lot, deeply, Yismach libay v'togel nafshay avgilas veranin, you will have incredible outwardly joy and glee. B'chol leiv v'nefesh. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to say essentially, your joy is a testimony to how real to how well you experienced this, to how well you understand and truly grasp this idea. With all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, be'emunazu, with this faith in the fact that the entire world is godliness. Why? Ki rabahi. Because this faith is fantastic. Why is it so great? Kihi kirvas elikim mamish, because it tells us that at every moment we're completely close to Hashem. At no time are we far from our beloved. Every moment of our life we're enwrapped with godliness. Now says the Alter Rebbe, I want you to know that this the manifestation of this emunah is the purpose of our creation. Meaning, what is dira betachtonim? What is the meaning of saying that we are making this world a house for Hashem? What does it mean? It means that we're shifting from looking at the world as being an independent existence that manifests itself, and we turn around and we say, what are you talking about? What is this world? Every part of the world is a manifestation of Hashem. V'zeh kol ha'adam. This is the mission of the entire, this is the totality of the person. V'tachlis briyosei. This is the purpose of his creation and the creation of all worlds. El yoinim v'tachtoinim. Li'es loy dira zu v'tachtoinim. That now Hashem, we human beings, acknowledge that the world is actually Hashem. It's like we pulled back the veil. I know what this is. This is all you, Hashem. Don't tell me, that this is some other thing. As will be explained later in great length in Lamed Vav and Lamed Zayin, etc. V'hinei, kama gdoila. How great is the simchas hedyot, is the joy of an ordinary man, and even more so, shfala noshim, a lowly person, biskarvusei lemelech basav adam, when he comes close to a king. Hamisachsein vedar itay imei bebeisa, who comes and moves into your home. Someone who you adore, someone who you, like the most famous person that's unimaginable, shows up at your doorstep and says, can I stay over? Kal v'chaymer le'ein kates. How much more so? Infinitesimally greater, lekirvas v'diras melech malchei amlochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to being always in the presence of Hashem. Ukidiksiv, ki mi hu zeh asher arav libay. Who could even imagine? Who could wish? Lo geshes elai nu'um Hashem. Every once in a while we see, today we live in a world where people share all kinds of clips, right? So everyone has someone that they consider famous or they would like to meet. But sometimes you see somebody meet someone that's so beyond what they could imagine that they just have a complete, they're just they completely melt. Like, wow, that like the greatest. It's like you can't imagine.
Goat, greatest of all time.
Yeah, suddenly it shows up. Who could even imagine such a thing? And we see how overwhelmed the incredible joy. Says the Alter Rebbe, the Alzeh, this for this, when a person recognizes, this is what we're saying every morning. This is the Chachamim enacted. Anshe Knesses Agdoila put in the Siddur a tefillah that we should say, Ashreinu Matev Chalkeinu, how fortunate we are. What does it mean that we're fortunate? That the Avos bequeathed, they gave an inheritance to us, that we have the power to live with this reality. That we look around in the world and say it's all Hashem. Ashreinu matev chalkeinu v'chulu umayafa yirushasenu. How beautiful is our inheritance. Koloimar. What are we trying to say? He's paraphrasing. K'maisha adam sos v'sameach. Just like a person is incredibly joyous. B'Yerusha, when he gets a large inheritance, shenoflaloi, a great inheritance came to you. It fell into your lap. Yeah? Shenoflaloi hoin otok, shaloi amobai, a fantastic fortune that you didn't work for. Says the Alter Rebbe, great, big. a vast fortune, a tremendous. Cain ve'yoser mikain, equal to this, and even more than this. Le'en kates, endlessly greater. Yesh lanu lismayach, we should be rejoice al Yerushaseinu she'inchilonu aveseinu, on the inheritance. I remember this in Chilonu, but I must have missed that vav. The inheritance that our parents gave us, hu yichud Hashem amiti, which is the true idea of Achdus Hashem, the true ideas of Hashem's unity, that the entire world, imagine what I said earlier, that there's no tzimtzum, that we're all one with Hashem. We're all part of His being. Asher afilu ba'aretz mitachas. Even in the lowest part of the world, in the darkest part of the world, the most gashmistic place, ein oid molvadei, there's nothing else other than Him. Not that there's no other God. There is nothing. V'zu hi dirase b'tachtonim. That is dira b'tachtonim. My dear friends, that's the meaning of dira b'tachtonim. The Alter Rebbe will soon say that the ultimate revelation of this will only be when Mashiach comes, that every person will see it with their physical eyes. But now we could experience it, we could think it into our lives. This is the meaning of the Gemara. The Gemara says at the end of Masechtas Makkos that Hashem gave the Jewish people Tayag mitzvahs nitel li Yisrael. Hashem gave the Jewish people Tayag mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs. What happened? It was too much. They couldn't think about all these things. They were overwhelmed. So what happened? The Chazal, so the Gemara says, one sage came and said, let me break it down. I'll make it fewer mitzvahs. 16, 11, 3, 2. And then finally, Chavakuk came. Chavakuk. The prophet Chavakuk came, V'hamidan alachas. He said, I only need you to think about one mitzvah. The word he'emidan. He'emidan means he preserved all mitzvahs with this one ingredient. Right? It doesn't say that he says you only have to do one. He'emidan, he established the other 612 al-achas on one mitzvah. What is it, says the Gemara? Shenemar, v'tzadik be'amunasa yichya. The tzaddik by his faith will live. Says the Alter Rebbe, Keloimar. The word Keloimar always means that we're paraphrasing. We have to explain what it means. It's not a literal meaning. Ki'ilu eina rak mitzvah achas. Of course you have to fulfill the other mitzvahs, but it's as if there's only one mitzvah. Hi ha'emuna levada. Emuna, faith. Faith in what? Faith that the entire world is godliness. Ki al yidei ha'emuna levada. Through internalizing this faith, Yavai, a person will come, L'kiyum kol hatayag mitzvahs. He will come to fulfill all the mitzvahs. When you look at the world and you see the entire world as being part of Hashem, how could any part of the world be an obstacle? How could it get in the way of you serving Hashem? Dehainu, when a person will be overjoyed by this emunah with ultimate joy, that this was the only mission in life. All he has to do is fulfill this mitzvah, to recognize the oneness of Hashem. And vehi levada, this mitzvah alone, is tachlis briyasai. That's the purpose of your creation. And that's the purpose of briyas kol ha'olamis. The purpose of all the creation of all worlds. Hare b'keyach v'chayes nafshe v'simcha rabazu. With this, with the power, with the rejuvenation, with the great joy that this mitzvah will give him, tis'ala nafshe, his soul will rise over all obstacles. Blemaila maila al kol hamoinim, and anything that gets in the way of kiyum kol hatayag mitzvahs. Mi bayis umi chutz, internal challenges and external challenges. All the things we discussed before, the depression, lack of nourishment, food, everything. That's why it says Tzaddik be'emunasei yichya. It could have said a tzaddik should serve Hashem with faith. What is tzaddik? He will live. Why did he choose this expression yichya? So he explains. Because yichya is like tchias hamesim, to come to life. The person will become like a new person. This emunah could breathe new life into a person. Ki tchias hamesim darach mashal. Kach tichya nafshei b'simcha rabazu. This emunah is so fantastic that it's like you'll come to be a completely different person. Your experience of the world will be transformed. Says the Alter Rebbe, "V'hi simcha kfula umchupelas." This is a doubly and a mechupelas, double and then quadruple, like doubly double. Ki milvad simchas hanefesh hamaskelas b'kirvas Hashem. What did the Baal Shem Tov say? A Jew is never alone. Never alone. It's a way of being, like to feel. It's a different feeling, right? That's the psychological aspect. Kimilvad simchas hanefesh hamaskelas b'kirvas Hashem v'dirasei itay imay. In addition to the joy of the soul by recognizing that Hashem is always with me. There's another simcha. Yismach b'kiflayim. You should be even more rejoiced that Hashem is happy. The simchas Hashem. Hashem created you. He gave you a mission. He put you in the world. You fulfilled your mission. What kind of simcha are we bringing to Hashem? B'simchas Hashem, the goydel nachas ruach lefanav yizbarich be'amunah zu. The fantastic. There's a maimer that we learned in. I think it's in Lakutei Torah. You'll remind me where it is, if you remember. There's a maimer where the Alter Rebbe says, he says, I don't understand. The angels serve Hashem and we serve Hashem. Our service is like tiny. The angels, they're like giants. How does our avodah measure up to the angels? So the Alter Rebbe says, the angels, what's the chiddush that they're serving Hashem? They see godliness, they're spiritually refined. But for us, Hashem knows our experience, a guf, a nefesh habahamis. He knows what we're up against. When we serve Hashem, that's where the joy is, because we're, I'm holding myself in from bringing a mashal, because I don't want to.
So the malachim can never have joy then.
I want to say it in an edel way. I don't want to say it in an inappropriate way, but
Just explain that person, the tzaddik and what it means.
The tzaddik lives with his faith. His faith gives him life. His faith, his faith in the oneness of Hashem. This is the Alter Rebbe referred in the entire parak to this idea as amunah. Yichud Hashem o amiti. It requires amunah because it's beyond. Like that's the challenge for us to truly, right? It's not as tangible as other things. To say that the world has a creator, the world has a creator. But to say that the entire world is all in Hashem, it's all part of Hashem, that's difficult, right? The Alter Rebbe said in the second chapter of Tanya that Hashem and His wisdom are one. Right? He brought from the Rambam. And then he said, Davar zeh, ein b'yecheles ha'adam la'avina, you can't properly understand. In other words, we think in components. There's a person, he has knowledge, he has emotions. Yeah. A person has components. Everything in the world has parts. That Hashem doesn't have parts. That we're all included, we're all one. That's something that requires amunah. Because a human being can't fully process that. Only when Mashiach comes will we be able to see it. But here the Alter Rebbe is saying an additional. Anyway, what I wanted to say is, in other words, imagine you have a person who's they're thirsty for love. They're hungry for love, right? So they're going to buy an AI, a robot. And they're going to tell the robot, say you love me. Right? How silly is that? How foolish. That's like I told that story with Rabbi Hirschsprung. Rabbi Hirschsprung had a photographic memory. So in the yeshiva in Montreal, you have to teach French in Quebec. So the school was having an inspection. You know the story. The school was having an inspection, so they went out, they bought French books. And they lined all the shelves in all the classes, they put French books. But then they needed a French instructor. There's no one who speaks French. They didn't know what to do. So Rabbi Hirschsprung is a genius. So they gave him a very special French poem. And they asked him to memorize it. And when the people came for the inspection, he recited the poem for them. And they were floored from memory, right? You could imagine, I don't know.
Did he know French?
No. He just memorized it. Then they finished. They were so impressed. And then he looked at them and he said, if you want, I could say it backwards. And the whole thing crashed. We say fashla, haya fashla. They realized what the story is. Right? It all collapsed. But, right? In other words, when the malach serves Hashem, it's like you telling the robot,
Right.
tell me you love me. Right? The greatest challenge.
Right. That's like Hashem is you. Hashem is telling the robot, tell me you love me. Right.
So for us,
Right.
we're there's a tzimtzum, and then we turn around and that's the greatest thing. And that's what the Alter Rebbe says now. Imagine, not only is Hashem happy that His purpose is being fulfilled, but it's also, where are we coming from? We're coming from a place of darkness. And that in the place of darkness, we're saying that this is all godliness. That's the greatest joy. Like the Alter Rebbe said earlier in Perach Chav Zayin, Oid Zois, Yismach Bekiflayim, there's a double joy, B'simchas Hashem. The Goydel Nachas Ruach Lefanu Yisbarach Be'amunazu, how great the Nachas is for Hashem. The Eskafia Sitra Achra Mamish, because this is literally controlling, suppressing Klippa. This Hapich HaSheichel and Ahira, the darkness is being transformed to light, which is the Cheshech HaKlippis. The Klippis are what deny the existence of Hashem. So Eilam Haza, what's the darkness of this world? That everything is like an independent entity. Cheshech HaKlippis Shebeilam Haza Achumri Hamachshikim Umechasim Al Eiri Yisbarech, that block, they block godliness. Ad Eis Kates, Kamesha Kosov, Kates Samla Cheshach, until the time when Mashiach comes. Now I know Kates Ayomin means the end of days, even though it says a final nun. Sheyaviru Achatum in Aretz, V'nikla Kved Hashem V'roko Basa Yachtav, Kamesha Kosov Kamon, when we'll all see the revelation of godliness. Ubifrat B'chutz La'aretz, especially in the diaspora. As the sages taught us, She'avir Eretz Ha'amim, even the air of the diaspora is impure. When a person takes a step out of Israel, when they come back, they have to purify themselves. The soil of the diaspora is impure. It's molek klibis v'sitra achra. Now, so we're so distant, we're so far, we're in such darkness. Ve'ein simcha lefanav yizbarech. There is no joy compared to the joy of Eira v'simcha b'yisr and Eir abam and acheshach baike, particularly when it comes from darkness. That's what I was saying before. When a person is in a lowly place and they crashed and they're feeling so down, to motivate that person should lift himself up, that person should find a way. That's true kirva. That's the joy. That's the real joy. It's very easy, not very easy, but someone who's in general, happy-go-lucky person, they're always positive, but to meet a miserable person and to transform him, that's the true joy. This is the meaning of the pasuk Yismach Yisrael ba'osav. So I just want to say On a basic level, what does this pasuk mean without the Hasidic taich? Yeah, Yisrael. Yismach Yisrael be'oisav, the Jewish people rejoice with their Creator. Okay, but the question is, why do we call Hashem Oisav? First of all, it should say Lashon Yachid. It's one God. Ba'isai, not Ba'isov. And why don't we? There's so many ways that we refer to Hashem. Bayrei, Yoitzrei.
Oisav is present, no?
No, Oisav is but Yud Vav at the end of the word is Lashon Rabim. Yismach Yisrael Ba'isov. Why say Ba'isov Lashon Rabim? Perush. Kol Mishu Mizera Yisrael. Every Jewish person that inherited this great gift from the Aves, Yeish Leilas Mayach, he should rejoice B'Simchas Hashem. You should be thrilled that you're causing Hashem such joy. B'Simchas Hashem Asher Sos V'Sameach B'Dirasa B'Tachteinim, because we're bringing him into this world. Now this world, our experience is Asiyah. We are the lowest form of materialism. We are the lowest being in the world. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Parshas Bereshis in Torah that Hashem created us from the earth. Sheheim bechinas asiyah gashmias. We rejoice with our Maker. Our Maker, what did He make? He made asiyah. He made a physical being. This is what I was saying earlier, that in Perek Lamed Gimel, the Alter Rebbe is not telling us to choose the joy of the soul. He's saying, "No, what are your gashmias? Who made it? This goof is one with Hashem." Shehem mechinas asiyah gashmias, mamish. So shekasav ba'oisav lashon rabim. That's why it says ba'oisav lashon rabim, because it's Hashem, the way Hashem manifests in Eilam Asiyah, Shu Eilam Haza Agashmi Hamolik Klipis V'Sitra Achra. And Hashem created that. And it's called Rishus HaRabim, the domain of the plural, of the many. V'Ture de Prude, and the mountains of separation. What is Eilam Haza? The place of divisiveness, the place of separateness, where everything in the world says, no, I need my place. We, in our Avodah, we transform them to light. And now, they become the private domain. The Yechudi is Baruch, to the oneness of Hashem, the Emunah. Through us being aware, conscious of this Emunah, it becomes a Rishus HaYachid, it becomes a place that's only Hashem. There was one point that I wanted to say earlier, but it slipped my mind and it didn't come back.
Can you explain that last part again, with this one being Rishus HaRabim?
Eilam Haza, before our Avodah, Eilam Haza is about divisiveness, separateness, multiplicity. Right? What is Eilam Haza? In Eilam Haza, every being shows you that he's separate from someone else. That's everyone's a Metzias, their own Metzias.
Public domain.
Right?
So,
Reb Chaim, thank you for watching. And thank you for joining, Rabbi said.